The environment offers many opportunities, and it is necessary to identify those opportunities to improve a business's performance. Early identification allows a company to be the first to spot an opportunity rather than losing it to a competitor. In many industries, the corporate climate has changed dramatically over the last 2 decades. The transition from a seller's to a buyer's market has been the most significant change. The seller's market, which was once very prevalent, refers to a monopolistic business system in which the supplier or service provider determined the transaction's dimensions. Now, the current business environment is characterized by a buyer's market. What is this? International transformations, as well as macroeconomic, technological, political, and social shifts, have contributed to this pattern. Because of this buyer's market, the world economy is becoming more globalized. Organizations compete fiercely both within and across numerous countries. In manufacturing, facilities, and some growth areas, there are now global excess capacities. We are now using new management techniques, and data and information is now accessible and can be utilized wherever. This brings us to the introduction of business environment. But what is it really? Well, business environment signifies the collection of individuals, entities, and several significant internal and external factors which control the productivity and performance of a business. We all know that an environment determines the growth, profitability, and even longevity of a business and gets altered by them as well. These factors influence the operations of a company directly or indirectly depending on its type. Similarly, an awareness of the business environment helps businesses in assessing opportunities. It assists in planning and, of course, contributes to the overall growth of an organization. Let's talk about the components of business environment. Once again, we have the internal ones. This combines the factors that exist within the company, such as human resources, value system, vision and mission, labor union, and corporate culture. On the other hand, we have external. An external environment includes those outside factors that exercise an influence on a business's operations. We have macroeconomics. These factors like social, cultural, political, legal, and global fall into this category. Next, we have micro. This environment has a direct and immediate impact on a business. It consists of customers, investors, suppliers, shareholders, etc. But what exactly is the importance of business environment in our world today, where it is now globally known as a buyer's market? Well, let me tell you something. The business environment identifies businesses' opportunities and possible threats. It helps in growing a business, provides scope for learning, efficiently tackles competitions, and it aids in building a brand image. That's how businesses thrive in the economy. Environment plays a determining role in establishing a good performing company. Hence, learning all the essential dimensions of business environment class is a must to achieve a firm grip on business studies. Today, businesses are experiencing a drastic change. Business leaders across the globe are experiencing a challenging and at the same time exciting phase of their careers. Challenging because of the ever-changing business environment in which we work, and exciting because with change comes an opportunity to innovate and learn through experience. This is your business environment. Own it and thrive.
right, welcome colleagues. It's good to have you today on this our end of year event, our end of year session, which we term the generative conversation. Glad to see Madam Funbi, who is the chair of our board. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome. I also see members of the board, Dr. Tawanda Mtandwa. It's good to have you here. Dr. Roland Livingstone from ISODC, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Patrick Shotia in Canada, thank you so much for always supporting our initiatives and activities. And to all the members joining us today, it gives me great excitement to reach to this point today, looking at where we started on the 10th of January, 2021, when we had a conversation that was organized by our colleagues in Afghanistan and was led by Dr. Christine Mushibwe and Professor David Jameson. We laid the foundation of our activities and the mission that we serve. And I am excited to review the activities that we tried to compress in the video trailer that I just showed. And it only shows a handful of the many conversations that we've had during the year. In line of our mission, we exist to create a platform for information exchange. We exist to create a platform for competency-based adult learning or professional learning. We are a community of scholars and practitioners who are on a mission to facilitate knowledge exchange in Africa and across the globe. And I'm so excited as we close our 2021 calendar of activities to have reached this milestone on our journey. And I appreciate the many partners who agreed to work with us and supported us throughout the year. I also appreciate the members for the commitment to the mission that we serve, our mission that is informed by advancing the field and practice of organization development. And we believe we are on track with regards to that particular mission. On the 5th of March, 2021, Madam Funbi Matthews indicated that growth is personal. And what we can do on such communities, on such networks, is just to create a platform for learning, a platform for networking, but growth is personal. I do believe to the many members who are part of our community that the activities that we've had during the year were quite fundamental in terms of awakening us to lifelong learning, in terms of enriching our knowledge base, and in terms of networking and creating meaningful connections. We have members from across 23 countries, and I do hope at this moment in time that whoever subscribes to the mission of OLDN managed to create meaningful and values-based connections. I take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this conversation and allow me to highlight that as OLDN, we do not transform people, we do not empower people, we don't have those supreme powers, but we create space for people to lead sustainable strategic change, facilitate continuous improvement, and improve the human condition. And I'm so excited. My colleague, Dr. Dotun, could not attend today, but we are excited by the milestone achievements, the members' progression as a result of some of the activities that we've arranged throughout the year. And I would say again, thank you so much for partnering this mission and this vision. The story of OLDN and COLD continues. I take this opportunity and welcome again everyone to this 11th of December 2021 end of year generative conversation by the Center for Organization Leadership and Development and Organization Leadership and Development Network, a community of scholars and practitioners guided and informed by the field of organization development and change. I take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Tawanda Mutandwa, who is going to give the opening message and a message from the board. Dr. Tawanda Mutandwa, I hand over to you for the message.
Thank you, Dr. Justin. I hope I am audible.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for the privilege that you have given me to represent the board of COLD and OLDN. It is a great pleasure to take this opportunity on behalf of the board. And I want to thank the executive and our administrators, the advisory council members, fellow board members, our segment leaders, facilitators, our international presenters, colleagues, friends, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to this end of year session. I would want to thank you for the opportunity to address you in this session representing the body. I would also want to thank our board chair, Mrs. Fanby Matthew, for her courage, commitment, excellence, and her visionary leadership to the board responsibilities in sync with the vision of the OLDN community at large. The members of OLDN board congratulate the leadership and members of OLDN for a productive 2021 financial year. Our community had several mini webinars, seminars, sessions that were held throughout the year. We conducted also various certifications to our members, and we are glad that some have completed their certifications today. We partnered entities around the world in addition to conducting our own conference, which happened to be very impactful to members and invitees alike. These are just a few of COLD and OLDN FIT in 2021 under the tutelage of Dr. Justin, deputized by Dr. Dotun Jekede. We thank the leadership of Dr. Justin Chinoperekwe and Dr. Dotun Jekede for their visionary and impactful leadership in pursuit of strategic management to achieve the productive year of 2021 in impacting meaningful, insightful discussions during the year under review. Whilst we appreciate 2021 stakeholders in retrospect, we look forward to a fruitful 2022 with enthusiasm to achieve more as a body and a global leadership stakeholder. As a representative of the body, I assure the OLDN community and the executive leadership of the board members' dedication to continuous strategic oversight and dedication to the good work for our community in pursuit of COLD vision and mission. It is our hope that our partnership will result in a COLD beneficial and mutual relationship that will anchor and encourage members to personally develop themselves within and outside the OLDN infrastructure. We must understand that post-pandemic, the world needs leaders now more than ever. Leaders, not leadership. It is a must in every society as well in the economic units and various sectors of the economy, wherever we are as a society, as a community, that we must be able to challenge the communities and the societies that we live in. We admonish all OLDN members to build on the productivity of 2021 to manifest our OLDN commitment towards the advancement of leadership in their families, in their organizations, the institutions, the workplace, and the society at large. We want to thank our leadership and our executive for a wonderful 2021 year, for making sure that we managed to hold a successful OLDN International Conference in July this year, 2021. On behalf of the board members, we would want to thank all the guest speakers, all the facilitators, all the organizations, all the organizers that took part in making sure that we had a successful 2021 International Conference. And whilst on that note, would urge all the membership of OLDN to participate as we prepare for the 2022 International Conference that will be held again in July 2022. We want to thank all the members of COLD and OLDN for the continuous support to the programs through the subscriptions of the annual subscriptions, the $10 per annum. I urge and encourage all members to support through the payment of those annual subscriptions. It is my hope and my prayer that we continue to support our executive and our administrators in pursuit of organizational leadership and organizational change within the organizations that we are in our different organizations. Let's continue to incite and ignite insightful discussions in our spheres of influence. Wherever we are, we must always ensure that we are strategic in everything that we do. As we come to the end of the year, Dr. Justin has just shown us the trailer of events that took place during the year 2021. We can see that our executive has been at work throughout the whole year and would want to thank them for that. It is our wish on behalf of the body that you continue with the vision and the mission of COLDN to be able to immerse the communities that we live within so that we're able to advance organizational development, leadership, and organizational change within our families, within our workplaces, within the organizations that we live, so that we leave a mark in everything that we do. Let's continue to push together as a team. We are one. As we come to the end of the year, we would want to wish the COLD and OLDN community and all our members, including our advisory council, our executive, everyone who has taken place and we have taken part in advancement of our vision and our mission. We want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. We wish you season greetings, and we wish everyone the best in 2022. May we continue with the energy that we have shown in 2021, and may we also continue to support our executive in an endeavor to be able to achieve the mission, the goals, and our objectives. I know that Dr. Justin had said that we are aiming for a target of 100 consultants who are well-versed practitioners in organizational development and change. And as of to date, we have only 31 consultants I believe the target is achievable, Dr. Justin, and we just have to continue to work to enroll more members so that we can be able to achieve that goal in the space of 3 years from now. Thank you very much. I wish everyone a happy New Year, Merry Christmas. Let's enjoy the holidays. Thank you so much. Back to you, Dr. Justin. Thank you so much on behalf of the board.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mtandwa, for that message. And I understand it's late there in Australia. What is the time now?
At the moment, it's 12:52.
12:52. Wow. Thank you so much for that message.
Okay.
Okay. This is a message from our advisory council member, that is Professor Matt Minahan, and he just have a word in a minute or so regarding the activities, and we appreciate him so much for the support to the network. Just as ISODC, Dr. Roland is going to speak later, we appreciate Dr. Matt Minahan for the support, and I indicated his intention to organize about 100 copies of OD and Change from American University as a donation to our community. We appreciate that support, and we look forward to more support from the community there. Just a short message from Professor Minahan.
Good day, friends and colleagues. My name's Dr. Matt Minahan, and I am so appreciative of the invitation to join your celebration today at the Center for Organization Leadership and Development. I'm unable to attend, but do want to send along my video greetings and congratulations to all there at the Center for Organizational Leadership and Development. The topic that you've got for today's session, I think, is a fabulous one. The future has other plans, exploring the disruptive vortex of OD in a VUCA world. I think you've got the metaphor exactly right, Dr. Justine, a vortex where all of these forces are coming together. We've got the pandemic and the vaccine supply and distribution, and socioeconomic issues, and migration, and poverty, and water. I mean, the world is desperately in need of the products and services and the beliefs and the attitudes and the skills that OD can bring to it. And I so congratulate you, Dr. Justine, and all of your faculty on the work that you're doing there at the center. With 5 graduates over this now your 6th cohort, you are certainly contributing a lot to the future of a better world. I also want to congratulate you on winning the Academic Entrepreneurial Award for 2020. That's a big deal, and it speaks to how much and how well you're doing the work there at the center. So let me wish you all a good day today, continued good conversation, continued success for the center, and thank you again for the opportunity to pass along my greetings.
Thank you so much. That's Professor Minahan from American University. We appreciate his support and his contribution to the work that we are doing. It's humbling to some of us, small boys like us, to get that level of support, and to have seasoned scholars and practitioners listening to what we are doing and supporting all the way in terms of advancing the mission that we serve. I take this opportunity to sincerely appreciate Professor Minahan, Professor David Jamieson, Nicole Heyman, Dr. Joanne Preston, and many colleagues, Professor Robert Mashak, Eric Sanders, who supported our work during the year 2021. We continue to forge meaningful connections and meaningful relationships, and we look forward to continued growth that is transformational and is not just focused on economic benefits, but expanding our reach and impacts. I appreciate that and appreciate the support. I'll give up to Violet Machaka to give a brief reflection on our certification program, which is the Certified Organization Leadership and Development Consultant Program. And soon after Violet, Mr. Kadziyanike, you will be ready with your presentation. Violet.
Thank you, Dr. Justin, and thank you, members. The journey has been exciting. We all looked forward to our Monday sessions. Every Monday we looked forward to meeting and discussing OD-related issues. My reflection is not just my reflection. It's a reflection from the entire team from cohort 6. These are the shared views that we have grown so much in the past 6 months. When we started, most of us were a bit on the shy side, and most of us were clueless as to what is OD. And just from the interaction during our Monday sessions, and also being thrown in the deep end by Dr. Justin, where you'd find yourself having to work with other colleagues from anywhere in the world, be it organizing conferences, be it being a facilitator at various workshops. Our presentation skills grew, our speaking skills grew, our reflective skills grew. We learned the importance of reflecting on who you are, the importance of being aware of who you are and what you represent, the energy that you carry, and how it impacts those around you. We learned one major impact gained from these sessions, from our engagement, has been a passion to see change, positive change, a passion, especially for us who are in Africa, to make sure that Africa operates on a global level, global standards. OD has become a part of us, not just in our workplaces, but even in our families. I, for example, I'm always aware of, am I living the OD values, even with my children? Am I living, when I even go and I interact with somebody, maybe in a shop as I'm doing a transaction, am I living OD values? So there's been a lot. We have developed our self-confidence, as I mentioned, networking skills. We've learned to network. I was talking to my brother Paul, from my colleague from cohort 6, and he was just sharing about how it's amazing that his HR rendezvous has grown to about 500 members, just from the encouragement that he has received from Dr. Justine OLND network. So there's a lot of benefit that we have gained from this interaction, from our sessions. We have also learned to value the importance of being transformational. And it's just not theory, but one thing that we really caught onto was, are we just being theoretical, or are we practicing what we are learning? Are we practicing what we preach? So just being aware of that I need to be transformational. I need to make an impact. I need to live OD. In our workplaces, there's been a lot of change, and in terms of just being aware of also creating safe spaces. Our workplaces, even our homes, does the environment facilitate maximum productivity from the members within, and how we can, make an impact. So in a nutshell, that is my reflection, not just my personal reflection, but from the entire group. And we are really, truly grateful. And this engagement, it is a lifetime engagement, and we'll always come back and always consult. We'll always come back and glean from the team, from colleagues everywhere. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much for that reflection. And our focus, as usual, is on the practice of OD, and I like the emphasis on living the OD values. And I think as a continent in Africa, if we are embedded in the OD values and the fundamentals of the field, we will lead and facilitate real transformation. And thank you so much. We'll have a full session to showcase the completers of the cohort 6 on our conference in July of 2022. Allow me, in the interest of time, we are 13 minutes behind time, to introduce our speaker for today. Then we'll hear from Dr. Roland and Mr. Patrick Trottier after this presentation. And our focus today is on, just one second as I share my screen, is on OD from the perspective of the VUCA-DICE world. And I think the presentation from Professor Matt Minahan introduces that topic in regards to what is happening around us. And our facilitator for today in the next 40 to 45 minutes is Mr. Gordon Kadziyanike from Zimbabwe. He is a human capital development consultant with 33 years of experience in training, project management, project planning, human resource planning, coaching and mentorship, performance management, and he's an expert or facilitator in the balanced scorecard. And we hope to learn a lot from his presentation. I understand for the past 3 weeks, Mr. Kadziyanike has been working on this presentation. So it's something that we really need to pay attention to. In OLDN, we don't do presentations overnight because the session is happening tomorrow. People go on Google, they search, and they come, they make a nice PowerPoint presentation, and eventually nothing happens. We really believe in impact and influence, and I appreciate Mr. Kadziyanike there for the exchanges we've had for 3 weeks planning this presentation. And I understand Mr. Paul Nyausaru was also supporting on the other end. So today, may we welcome Mr. Gordon Kadziyanike as he takes us through in the next 40 to 45 minutes. Mr. Kadziyanike, over to you. Over to you, Mr. Kadziyanike. You're on mute if you are speaking. All right. You're on mute, Mr. Kadziyanike. Okay, over to you then.
Thank you, Doc. Let me start by apologizing. I am a BBC, a born before computers, so it's not unusual that I was on mute when I was supposed to be audible. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, you are. We can hear you clearly. Do you want me to share screen, or you can share from your end?
I think since I'm a BBC, I would prefer you share it from that end.
No problem. Thank you. I'll do that.
I'm a born before computers.
Thank you so much. That's fine. Over to you then.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc. All protocols observed. It is as Violet said, she was thrown in a deep end when they were interacting with you, and I also found myself thrown in the deep end, and then I consulted Paul and said, Paul, Doc has thrown me into the deep end, and then Paul said, that's his character. So initially I was cross, but then I forgive you for that, Doc.
Thank you so much.
But of course, what I then went on to do is I consulted my advocate, and then he said, tell the group that we are wholly and severally liable to the presentation. So I then said, but I'm not a lawyer, what does that mean? And he said, it means we are in it together. So yeah, sure, we are in it together. We are going to explore, or I will give a helicopter view of disruptive innovation in the VUCA economy, in the VUCA-DICE world that is also affecting OD. I'm not sure if I can, okay. So basically, the objectives of this presentation are to articulate the disruptive vortex that is shaping the VUCA-DICE world inherent in the current environment, also to analyze the challenges and opportunities offered by this environment, and also to explore the solutions to overcome them. But in coming up with this topic, something inspired it. It was inspired by, in December 2019, I sat in the garden with my wife, and then we started planning for 2020. We wrote all our aspirations, and then come March, we were now on lockdown. And all I could say is the future is now other plans, because we were now in a disruptive vortex. So basically, I will look at disruptive vortex, the disruptive vortex and its characteristics, and how to counter the disruptive vortex, and also how do we then VUCA-proof our disruptive vortex. But in this presentation, and also riding on what Doc said, this is a generative dialogue, generative discussion, and therefore my role basically is to facilitate. So I'll do the process expertise, whilst of course our members in the house will be the content experts. So here and there, I will be using the 4 Ps, where I will pose questions, I will pose a question, I will pause, and then pounce and also praise. Maybe, okay. So I narrated my future, which gave room to this topic, and maybe one or two may want to share their future as well. I mean, how they've been disrupted, so that at least it's not only my side of the story. I was affected by COVID, and my future turned around. Do we have any other experiences in the house before I go deeper into our presentation? Anyone to share their experiences as well?
Thank you. Anyone can unmute. We can have 2 people to share.
Yes,
Just
2 people.
Unmute yourself. Yes, Paul is there.
Oh yes, just the same as Mr. Kadziyanike. He had a brighter future for 2020. It was the same on my side. I was really looking forward to getting into my other plans of consulting, and also taking my consulting business to another level. But came the lockdown, the future was bleak, All plans were in disarray, and I was back to the drawing board.
Thank you. One more person, then we can proceed. Anyone, please unmute yourself. Yes, Dr. Roland.
Good evening, I think it is where you are. In January of 2020, the COVID hit, and the program that I was teaching in at American University, along with Matt Minahan, whom you heard from earlier, and other faculty members in the Organizational Development and Leadership program there, the MSOD, which was a face-to-face program, suddenly had to go online. We had just begun the cohort that was starting their 18-month study and had one face-to-face meeting on a weekend, and the remainder of their time in the program, including all of the faculty members who teach in that program, had to be done online. That was the vortex into which we were thrown, and our future was created as we went along, not something that was pre-planned for us to follow.
Okay, thank you so much to the to fellow colleagues who shared their experiences, and it is this kind of experience that then gave me wondering, what is the future really? And I came up with some saying from John Scar. I'm not sure whether it's the right pronunciation, but basically what he said was, the future is not some place we are going, but one we are creating. So the paths are not to be found, but made. And the activity of making changes, the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination. So in a disruptive VUCA world, we are saying that there are bound to be a number of changes that are going to happen, and quite a number of us experience such changes. Doc? But then why disruptive VUCA-DICE? I then borrowed two words and came up with a hybrid. I borrowed the word VUCA, which is from the military, and also DICE, which I borrowed from a book called The Future Has Other Plans, but then the book was focusing mainly on environmental issues. So basically what we are saying is organizations in the world over are being sucked into a VUCA-DICE vortex, where the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity combined with the dynamism for the DICE, impossibilities, and ever-changing nature are swelling around within their operating ecosystems. And you will notice that there's a common denominator in this VUCA-DICE, and the common denominator has been complexity. So hence, you will notice that complexity is appearing on both the VUCA and the DICE vortex. If there are no other, okay. So basically we are saying indeed the world, okay. I wanted to say if anyone can also jump in and make a comment, because remember we are in it together. So sure. Organizations in the world.
The ladies.
Oh, all right. Yeah, sure.
We can hear from the ladies now.
Yes.
We have ladies here: Bontle, Violet, Tsitsi, and Madam Hannah. Your comment, Madam Funbi.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Justin. I'm just basically, learning. We're all disrupted. And it's a wonderful time to basically learn and reshape the future from next year, and learn from our mistakes this year, learn from our challenges, learn from the opportunities we've explored, and then, face, the future is here, but again, face the next year with some kind of, dynamic actions and all of that. And so I'm just basically listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Mr.
Okay, thank you, Doc. I think we can move in the interest of time. We can move on. So basically, I mean, to just sum it up, indeed, the world we live in is now brimming with chaos, turbulence, and unpredictability. Everything around organizations seems to be in a state of discontinuous flux, and in the process, trapping them in the disruptive vortex of an unending cyclone of change. So that's what the changes around us, what the events around us are doing to organizations, Doc. But what are the characteristics of this disruptive vortex? Just to have a feel of the magnitude of the vortex. We are saying typically, like all other vortices, the disruptive vortex naturally is pulling objects relentlessly towards the center. Everything is being pulled towards the center. And as objects approach the center of the vortex, their velocity are increasing exponentially. And within the basic rule of movement towards the center, disruptive vortices are highly chaotic. So there's a lot of chaos around the world of organizations. And we are saying an object can be on the periphery one moment and then drawn directly into the center the next moment. This is how volatile the vortex is. And this is what motivated me to at least share it with colleagues in organizational development. Doc? So we are saying then the combined forces of the vortex have plunged our organizations into a VUCA-DICE world, which I defined above. But then the question is, what is a VUCA-DICE world? What is a VUCA-DICE world? We talk about I'm sure I talked about it in the previous slide. So in the interest of time, since it's already defined, we can move on. So basically what I'm saying is a VUCA-DICE world combines the two phenomenal concepts of VUCA, which stands for volatility, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, with DICE, which stands for dynamic, impossible, complex, and ever-changing, to yield a volatile and dynamic, uncertain and impossible to understand, complex, ambiguous, and ever-changing world of organizations. So I've then looked at these two words and then combined them to come up with the VUCA-DICE. And this is the state that then we find our organizations in. There's a lot of volatility and uncertainty. So maybe this is this I throw now to our to all people in the house, to think about your organization or practice and identify at least one or two VUCA challenges that you currently face. Maybe describe the impact this situation is having on your organization or on your practice. Anyone to share from their organizational perspectives, the challenges, the VUCA challenges that they are facing, and also the impact on the organization.
Yes, we can have two people. You can unmute yourself. Feel free. Yes, Patrick, your hand is up.
Am I on?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Interesting conversation. Appreciate it. Yes, being the founder of Emergent OD and Emergent Change, this is what we practice with organizations. So it's doesn't have for the last 30, 40 years. So I want to talk about a client. They had to change their whole mindset. That took a year to look at things differently because of technology changes. It went from on-premise kind of information systems to the cloud. Their software dealt with non-cloud, and their challenge was to shift their whole mindset around looking at their service, their software, their designs, and start from scratch. So a 25-year company, technology company, had to move into a whole nother thinking space to reinvent themselves as their environments have changed. So that was a challenge for them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Paul has mic on. And then
Yeah,
Madam Hannah. Yeah.
I think, yeah, organizations are going through this phenomenon. And most of the time, I just want to comment from, there's another organization that we have recently formed. And I was laughing this other day that we were planning for a one-day conference, which we wanted to do physically. But just over the few days, this fourth wave is starting to hit Zimbabwe. And we're asking ourselves on whether our plans would go as what we had really planned. Because our admin person was saying, look, I was asking her whether there were any bookings. And she was saying, it's very slow, but everyone that I'm talking to has got flu. So what she was indicating was that our plan to have it physically might be a challenge because of the fourth wave that was coming in. But I quickly jumped in and said, okay, so we need to be agile. And it's either we have a hybrid session or we move it over to a virtual one. So I think what we're discussing here is real. And what it needs is people who are agile, who look at a situation and come up with solutions immediately to salvage the situation.
Thank you, Madam Hannah. Then back to you, Mr. Kadziyanike. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody can hear me clearly.
Sure.
Okay. So for me, I'm in
Sorry, unmute. Okay.
Am I okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in southern part of Nigeria where the lockdown had its effects. But you know, there's still a lot of uncertainties about the existence of the virus, the COVID-19 virus. So sometimes you propose something and everybody is looking at you in a weird way, like, where are you coming from? Now, I'm in a university, I'm a lecturer. Earlier on, we are just rounding up the first semesters. Like 3 months ago, when the semester started, we were thinking we are going to do online classes like most other schools were doing. But you know, it took a long time to even convince the lecturers first that we are going online. And then the students, it was a different ballgame. This is a public school in a not very buoyant area of town. So most of the students may not even have smartphones. And we are going online. How will that ever happen? So you know what happened? After the first week of resumption, the management were still trying to set up structures for online classes. Students started trooping into school with or without nose mask or any protection. So we had to switch immediately. Since they were coming in, I mean, you can't drive away 10 to 15 students, 15,000 students from the gate. They just started trooping in. They are coming to resume like nothing has changed. Everything is the same. We had to start giving normal lectures. And after then, there was no online discussions again. We just continued giving the normal lectures and they keep trooping in for classes and they go home. Even to use nose mask became a policy had to be made that if you're not wearing your mask, you won't be allowed into the school premises. They walk through the gate, into the gate with their mask and take them off thereafter. So there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of disruption. Everything, it just seems to be in chaos. 3 months down the line, we are rounding up the semester and nobody did any online lectures and school continued the written exams. Meanwhile, we are in the midst of a pandemic. That's my own experience.
Yes, Mr. Gordon.
Okay, thank you, Doc. And of course, just to share what happened today when I was coming to make this presentation, my daughter just joined university. It's the first semester. And she was telling me, Dad, I wish I had grown during your time, because just as soon as I get into university, they are now telling us we are going virtual. So again, this is how they are being disrupted. But maybe because we have talked about volatility and dynamism in the environment, we have talked about uncertainty and impossible to understand the environment and all other components of the VUCA world. The big question now is, what should organizational leaders do to counteract that? I'm sure that's also very important. Yes, this is the situation that we are in, but the big question is, how then do we overcome? How would we overcome this situation? And therefore, this takes me to the VUCA antidote. I'm told if you are bitten by a black mamba, you can only be cured by an antidote made from the black mamba venom. So what is this antidote that we need to administer, the VUCA antidote? So we are saying the VUCA-DICE Vortex require leaders who overcome the paradigm paralysis. There's a lot of paradigm paralysis, and we are saying leaders should change this. And the paradigm paralysis basically is defined as the inability or a refusal to see beyond models of thinking. So we are saying yesteryear models of thinking are no longer applicable in today's environment, because the environment has changed. So it calls for leaders at every hierarchy to fundamentally reframe what they see, because what they saw yesterday is not what is there today. So they have to reframe what they see. They have to rewire what they think. And also they have to reconfigure what they do in order to create vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. So the antidote basically for a VUCA world, a VUCA-DICE world, is also a VUCA prime antidote. Doc?
Yes.
So we are saying the antidote is leaders must revisit their vision. Leaders must have understanding. Apologies for the wrong spelling of understanding. Leaders must have clarity, and leaders must have agility. And of course, Paul talked about agility. Of course, I will then expand on it when I get to there. So we are saying counter volatility with vision. And Paros in 1996 posited that a vision consists of two main elements and two sub-elements. The core being ideology or core values and purpose. And the envisioned future, which is the bug or the big, hairy, audacious goals. What are the bugs of the organization? And we are saying leaders in crafting their vision should have an understanding of, leaders have to have an understanding of these core elements. So we are saying in a VUCA world, organization leaders need to stick to their core values. They need to maintain their core values, yes, because they are perpetual. But at the same time, their bugs or their big, hairy, audacious goals must continuously be changing or be adapted. In doing so, they also need to counter uncertainty by leading with understanding. In terms of discontinuous change and volatility, quickly changing and unpredictable environments, organizational leaders need to comprehend the changes and their impact on their organizations. So as the changes happen so spontaneously, leaders need to come up with the strategies that will help them steer the ship away from the center of the vortex. And also our leaders should understand the complexity chasm by adopting clarity in whatever they are doing. And as organizations experience the strengthening pull of the VUCA vortex, they find themselves vacillating violently between complicated and complex operating contexts. And they need to overcome this. But in order for them to overcome this, they need to understand the difference between complicated and complex. Where we are saying complicated is the looking at things that are knowable, ordered, predictable, and controllable. Whereas complex is unknowable, unordered, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. So they need to have clarity of these in order for them to navigate through the VUCA world. They also need agility. My brother Paul talked of agility. And of course, as I was reading, I came up with a very good summary of agility, where Steve Sackert's was saying, in agility basically is about anticipating change. Are we anticipating change? Leaders must anticipate change. Leaders must generate confidence to their subordinates or to those that they lead. Leaders must initiate action. A vortex world should be filled or should be action-packed. Leaders must liberate their thinking, because what worked yesterday will not work today. And of course, leaders must also evaluate results. So these are the key characteristics of agile leadership in a vortex world. So basically what we are saying is leaders should also instill a culture of learning, where we are saying there has to be movement from the find it kind of syndrome to the figure it out. Instead of finding it out, leaders should instill a generative learning culture. And I'm happy, Doc, you talked about a generative engagement. And I almost cried foul to say, you are preempting my presentation. So learning is critical in a VUCA world.
Yes, maybe I'll give you a moment to pause there.
Yes.
And hear from colleagues in terms of the antidote that you have shared.
Yes.
The vision, the understanding, the clarity and agility. I understand a lot of people towards the end of the year, we start talking about New Year resolutions, and we sit down and we do planning. So probably it would help colleagues sharing what they are doing in practice to enhance their vision, their understanding, clarity, and agility. What are some of the practical steps that we can actually adopt in organizations? And I'll go in the chat box for colleagues who are here. Mr. Samuel Osho, if we can hear your voice. Mr. Samuel Osho. Practical steps to enhance vision, understanding, clarity, agility. You're on mute. Okay.
Okay. Good day, everyone.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. I think I want to get like a vivid picture of what you just asked me to talk about. Sorry for the request. I'd like you to come again.
We'll come back to you. Yeah, we'll come back to you then. Madam Tsitsi. You're muted, Tsitsi.
Thank you very much, and good day to us all. I think what Mr. Kadziyanike is bringing is very, very important. What I've appreciated more from his presentation so far, and what I can also relate with very well, I think is the issue of purpose. I think it's very important for every organization to be clear in terms of its purpose, because what I've seen mostly what is mostly affected, I think in most cases, by these various changes and stuff like that, is probably the how you actually do certain things. So I think when an organization is clarified in terms of the purpose, I think for me that's very key, because then that helps you to maneuver and see how you can change the how part of things. So for instance, Hannah was talking about the education sector and stuff like that. The purpose there is to deliver education, right? So what has been affected is that whether you're going to be doing face-to-face or online or things like that. So I think when you are clarified in terms of purpose, you will actually be able to achieve and even to bring in the various key steps. So for me, I think the starting point is to have clarity in terms of the purpose. What is the purpose of the organization? What is the mission of the organization? What does the organization stand for? So I think for me, that is what is key.
Thank you. Mr. Obaseki, you want to add something there?
I just want to add to what we've been talking about. Yes, the presenter talked about vision, which is very, very okay. You know, it's fundamental, it's a building block. But in addition to that is the managerial responsiveness. And when I say managerial responsiveness, I'm looking at the management styles, etc. You know, that's expected to align with the vision, because you are leading people. We say managers working organization lead people that will support the dream of the vision of the organization. So if leaders don't have those managerial, skills that will help them to respond, to the dynamics of the business environment relative to their vision, it becomes difficult. That's just what I want to add to the issue of vision and the rest.
Thank you. Mr. Kadziyanike.
Okay, thank you so much. We can go to, my brother reminded me of the fact that a pepper cannot drive a Benz. And ironically, it is a saying that is accredited to my Nigerian brothers and sisters. Where a story is told of an unlicensed Nigerian driver who was stopped at a police roadblock and he was asked to produce his license. And then he looked at the police officer and he said to him, "Officer, a pepper cannot drive a Benz, but a man can drive a Benz." So in other words, we are saying, in a VUCA-DICE world, it is not a paper, which is called a strategic plan, that will drive the organization, but it's people through their leadership who will drive the organization out of the VUCA-DICE world. So we are saying, how do they drive the organization? which and I will articulate that in the next slide, which I also borrowed. There's a framework that was developed, which is called the SCALES framework, which can help leaders in driving organizations during the VUCA world. But what does this look at? We are saying strategic leadership or leadership is critical. Leadership must be strategic. They must have the big picture in mind. They must be holistic. They must be anticipatory. And of course, in their planning, they must also look long term. We are saying there's also the C for complex. The C for complex, numerous, dynamic, network, interdependence. Leaders must be adaptive, and also they must be innovative. In other words, they must be creative, and they must also adopt out of the box thinking. My professor used to say, leaders must come up with the innovative and the innovative ideas. And I was saying, where are you getting this, Prof? And he said they must come out with breakthrough innovations and, of course, winning innovations. I'm sure Paul is familiar with this because we were in it together. We are also saying our systems, leaders should come up with systems that are open, that are collaborative, and that are synergized. Leaders must have an emergence plan. And also learning should take center stage in the VUCA-DICE world. So in a nutshell, we are saying strategy is very critical. An entrepreneurship mindset should be instilled in the organization. There's need for resilience, proofing, and also responsiveness. Decentralization of management. In other words, we need to move away from the top-down approach to a decentralized management system where we value contributions from each and every employee of the organization. We must also be a learning organization. And we can do this through engagement and also by thinking without the box. Collaboration and co-opetition becomes critical. In other words, let's collaborate. Let's also cooperate to compete. And we are also saying we need to exercise non-linear thinking. Authentic leadership is also critical in a VUCA world, and also the acquisition of new knowledge. My professor used to say, knowledge without the infusion with new knowledge is innate and excess garbage to the possessor. So we are saying, let's continuously learn in a VUCA world if we are to overcome the situation that we are in, or we risk being corporate dinosaurs like what Kodak did. Doc? So maybe what's left for me is to say, do we have any other questions or any contributions?
Yes, I do have questions.
Yes.
I have a question. While you were talking, because the word VUCA or VUCAD,
yes,
or the VUCAD, as we may want to use it, it's not new to some of us.
Yes.
Of interest to people like us is the understanding of these acronyms regionally and the practicability of these ideas we are trying to generate. Because I am increasingly becoming of the view that in the attempt to catch up with the way the environment is changing, Africa and some other regions like Africa seem to be we will be far from we'll be far from it. What am I trying to say in a nutshell? If we say we are looking at developing a system, an agile system, a flexible system, etc., that will help organizations to, align with the changing business environment, how do we now explain all these whole conversations, looking at the cultural arrangement, the quest for power by African nations, and so on and so forth, who would rather prefer their own ideas to fly rather than align other people's ideas to fly, and so on and so forth. So does it really mean that, is it suggesting that Africa and organizations in Africa will be, we increasingly becoming, distant from the world we are trying to catch up with? I'm beginning to, wonder how possible this whole thing would be, especially in places like Africa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm fortunate in that I have my mentor in the house. So I will throw it to Dr. Justin.
Yes, thank you. I was processing that as well. And I'll come back to that because I was processing and I was expecting you also to process as we come back to that. Allow me to process that and then come back to it. In the meantime, I'll take Violet and Funbi. Then we come back to it. Violet.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for the insightful presentation. My issue is around, you have made emphasis on leaders. And so, firstly, I want to assume that when you say leaders, we are assuming that everyone within an entity is a leader. Okay, I'll put that aside. And then I think the issue that I have is, aren't we putting too much of a burden upon leaders because they're also caught up in not understanding what's going on. They also don't have clarity in terms of how to process what needs to be processed at that moment, or in terms of solutions. I think I liked what you said. When you said the need to do away with linear thinking. I think that is something that has worked, that I've seen working lately in terms of the organization that I'm with, in that obviously one of the key functions of any organization that has been overworked the past 2 years or has been the business continuity. I think what has worked is involving people from that wouldn't be involved in such maybe should I say committees before, but involving them has seen that we've implemented systems that have worked. We have introduced systems that have been taken that have been taken up by head office and other branches. So I liked the thinking on maybe moving away from linear, and how we can then goes back to how we can encourage the leaders that you emphasized on to make sure that it's not just them. The weight of this is not just upon them, but is how do we share it equally? How do we, because then if I'm not a leader of an entity, I can sit back and say, I'm waiting for the CEO to make a decision. Where does personal accountability come for everyone to also participate, to make sure that we are all involved and we're bringing solutions. We are all on our feet as we navigate these uncertain times.
Yes, thank you. I will ask you also to process that, Mr. Kadziyanike, and then we are in this together. Tsitsi.
Thank you very much. Maybe two things for me. One, just a contribution, and the second one, a question. I think my contribution is that just like Mr. Kadziyanike also put up the need for organization to be continuously learning, because what I found out is that when the VUCA hits us now, and we are in unlearning or probably a kind of stagnant organization, we are tend to hit harder because the state of preparedness for risk, for happenings and stuff like that is pretty low. So I think it's very important for organization to be always on their feet, leaders or the leadership sniffing what is happening around, in as much as the world has become very unpredictable. But I think when we are organizations that are on their feet and are kind of constantly reading trends that are happening in our various industries, that will actually help us to adapt better. That will help us to absorb the shock. Like, so for me, the COVID and all its changes were not really like just disruption, but it was really like a physical shock, a mental shock, a psychological shock. I'm like, okay, what is happening here? And then you try to put yourself together. So I think it's very important for organization to be constantly learning. Then my question is, you know, sometimes as an organization, you might have all those frameworks, you know, where you are able to adapt, you're agile and, you know, all that. But I've since moved to a different industry altogether. So I'm now working in the telecoms industry, and currently we have a project that we are running with a client. So I found that sometimes you as an organization, particular organization, you might take all those steps and stuff like that and be prepared and to move on and stuff like that. So like we have most of our staff, like Patrick was on the cloud, but the client is kind of not understanding that. So we are constantly being taken back. So my question is, how do we ensure that our clients or the customers are also moving with us, are also sensitive to the same VUCA or to the same rhythm that we have since adopted as an organization? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll put a pin on that and respond to that at the end. Madam Fulbi, your hand was up before I go to Dr. Tawanta.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. I think I had to take the note down on the statement that says that the future is not some place we're going, but one that we're going to create. And so my comment is, I think that at this point in time, everywhere in the world, there is, in this VUCA world, because things are very uncertain, because of volatility and the rest of it, you know, all the challenges that people face, I would like to just mention that our value system would always be questioned as leaders, as we face, you know, this VUCA world, you know, that's been presented to us. The question that we should always ask ourselves is, do we want to stand by our value systems, or do we want those value systems to crumble in the face of those, you know, challenges or volatility, you know, that may come, you know, different things. I was just thinking this morning of a situation where I was involved in a research, and I was talking to someone very brilliant, and the person said to me 3 days ago that, oh, okay, can you on your system? And I was like, okay, I'll on it. Then I on my system, and he said to me, you know what? You don't have all the number of people that you want. I said, yes, I don't. I'm still pushing. And then the person said to me, and you know what? Just open yours. Let me show you what to do. It basically asked me to copy some responses of some respondents and put it for other respondents. And so now it may seem like it's a simple thing to do, but the reality of it is that what does that do? That basically reshapes the findings of that outcome. And the solutions that we would present as OD practitioners will come from engagement of people. So for me, I just want to leave with us that at each point in time, regardless of the challenges that we would face, that our value system should be intact. Integrity is a core of stability when it comes to, you know, facing these VUCA challenges. And I think that we need to hold on to it. My final comment will have to do with the reality of globalization and the fact that for all of us, we are really, really, regardless of where we are, the world, there is no Chinese war anymore. Everywhere, the Chinese war has finally collapsed. And because it has collapsed, we need to understand cultural differences. And we need to be able to continue to collaborate. And I really appreciate Dr. Justin for that, a sense of urgency when it comes to collaboration, because it's definitely the way to go. We would not always have all the information that we need to make solutions or to recommend solutions or to even engage. The reality is we would always need other people. And I would say my learning from this is to move on in 2022, we have to keep learning and we have to open up our minds to learn from a lot of people and to incorporate the learning, you know, with agility, you know, like the speaker has suggested. And those were the two comments I just thought I should have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I see 2 hands up. We need to close in about 15 minutes. We had scheduled to finish in 1 hour, 30 minutes. Anyone else wants to speak after Dr. Tawanda and Mr. Samuel? Yes, I'll come to you, Mr. Samuel. I'll take Dr. Tawanda first, then come back to you. Dr. Tawanda.
Thank you, Dr. Justin. I just want to pose three comments or just 3 challenges in our discussion. And I would want to thank Brother Golden Kadziyanike for a powerful presentation that challenges us at the end of the day. So we all live in an uncertain world that is challenging us every day. The presentation is quite good. I like the framework that has been proposed, the skills framework. My only problem and my only challenge with the framework is it a one-size-fits-all organizations and institutions, or we have to take some of the approaches from there and approach it to our individual institutions. You spoke about the issue to do with leadership. Leadership is very key in organizations. Organizations succeed or fail because of leadership. I come from a country where an organization, when it fails, people blame leadership. But I think the approach that you have taken is that leadership, we should take it as a system, not as an organization. Every organization, I mean, every department, every service center in an organization, every person must be able to participate when it comes to issues to do with the leadership. Gone are the days that when a company fails, we blame the managing director or the CEO. Each and every person, each and every department has a role to play when it comes to leadership for the success of the organization. And I think the presentation alluded to that. And I think I would want to challenge colleagues here around. I know some of us who are in leadership positions. We must be able to inculcate a culture that we should have a teamwork, work with our colleagues and make sure the organizations that we work for or the organizations that we lead succeed. Not only because of our effort, but we should have that teamwork. If it's the marketing department, the finance department, the HR department, if those departments are not working and not doing their part, for surely the organization will collapse because every department has a role to play. Then the issue of that I wanted also to talk about is on strategy. You highlighted the issue of strategy on the skills framework. I believe strategy is also very key in the success of organizations. My challenge is you had issues to do with the long-term approach, holistic approach, under strategy. When we craft a strategy, we are saying this is what we intend to do for the next 5 or so years. That's a medium-term plan. Some organizations, they plan up to 10 years. It's rare to see an organization that plans for 1 year. So my challenge to colleagues is, in the environment that we live today, is strategy still relevant? Is strategy still important? I mean, we are looking at the organization, we take all the departments and we sit down and we say, this is what we want to do for the next 2, 3, 5 years. And some, they go up to 10 years. And we all agree that the environment and the world is changing every day. Do we need to plan? Do we need to strategize? Do we need to look into the future? That's a challenge. But personally, I do believe that organizations that succeed, they don't only come up with strategies, but they must be able to implement those strategies. If you go deeper into strategy, they say 75% of organizations, they fail to implement their strategies. But where we are going with the experience of the year 2020 and 2021, in the organization, the company that I work with, we are no longer using strategy because strategy does not work with this environment, which is complex, which is changing every day. Decisions are made that we don't have power to control. So that's an environment that we cannot control. We don't have power over it. So what do we do as organizations? I know we work from different sectors. Those who work in the public sector, well, they are safe. But some of us, we work in the service industry. Service industry moves very fast. Decisions have to be made there and then. We cannot work on a plan that stretches for 5 years. We have to plan every day. So that's a challenge to colleagues. Then the number 3 issue that I just wanted to touch on was the issue to do with agility. From my understanding, organizations sometimes, if they want to make a transition so quickly, sometimes they make mistakes in that process. And what causes most of the organizations to fail and collapse are the mistakes they make in trying to go through over a transition because of the environment which is changing rapidly and so quickly. So for agility to succeed, yes, we have to do the transition quickly, but I think we also have to do it diplomatically and strategically to make sure that as we go along the way, we don't make major mistakes that will make us fail in as much as we want to succeed. So those were the 3 comments that I just wanted to pause in. But in conclusion, for sure, we are living in a turbulent environment. We are living in a VUCA environment. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. So as leaders, we should always be on the ground watching and be able to make decisions there and there. Thank you.
Thank you. I see one last hand is up. Then Mr. Kadziyanike, you will start. Mr. Samuel, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Doc. I think I heavily on your last explanation on leadership. Everything, I think John Maxwell talks about everything resting on leadership. It starts and ends with leadership, you know. So, and we cannot separate that. So I will deviate a bit from the concern of the former speaker that talks about if that was concerned about if leaders are not overwhelmed or so. So because everything rests on leadership. So leadership is going to be leadership. So, but what is important now is that for the leaders to not have what it takes to equip other employees, you know, to support, care, and so on and so forth, so that they can align effectively and efficiently with the vision of the organization. It's very, very crucial. That's number 1. Then number 2, I remember Doc mentioned the issue of strategy. Strategy will continue to be relevant, but the problem will always be being sensitive enough to understand that the template of the business environment is changing. So your strategy should change. So once managers in organizations are able to understand that, understand the way the environment is changing, or they are sensitive enough to have their antenna up to pick the signals of the business environment and align with their strategy. You know, as the environment changes, I think that will help to support organizations in being responsive to the business environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Kadziyanike, any part that you'd want to start responding to?
Thank you, Doc. Maybe I will start responding to leadership. I remember when I was about to get married, my uncle called me, sat down with me, and he said to me, Golden, my son, a fish rots from the head first. So you are going to be the leader of the house. And if you rot, it means the whole family is rotten. This is why I pestered the leaders. But basically what I was trying to come at is to persuade leaders of organizations to move away from the command and control kind of leadership to leadership where they build teams. So in each team, because they say great leaders create other leaders along the way. So if you are a leader and fail to create other leaders, then it means you will have also failed as a leader. So that's my call on leadership. Then on strategy, I feel personally strategy is still relevant, but it must be combined with agility. We must be strategic, but at the same time, we must constantly review our strategies because what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. That's my comment. And also maybe in coming up with these strategies, for example, in Zimbabwe, we have our resort, the Vic Falls. You will see the top brass going to Vic Falls, spend a week doing strategic plans. But we are saying, is that the best way? And I allude to participatory strategic planning sessions where you are involving so in a nutshell, I think
okay. I think we lost him there. All right, then I will start with Mr. Samuel's question in terms of leaders in Africa, and I will combine that with what Violet pointed out on whether leaders are not overburdened because everyone is looking up to them. And I believe, first of all, we need to reframe our thinking around leadership in organizations. And whether we are holding on to the old paradigm that says someone with superior position is a leader in an organization and everyone has to look up to them. That perspective of leadership as a position. And in our community, particularly in Africa, we have that dominant mindset that believes that there is one person who is a messiah or a group of people in an organization who act as messiah for the entire organization, and we rely and depend on them. And this is so dominant in political leadership because of the nature of politics and political leadership, and is transferred to organizations. So we need new paradigms of leadership. And new paradigms of leadership, Patrick, who is here, speaks more about a leadership culture in an organization. If we have a leadership culture in an organization or in a system, it means we have leaders developing leaders. And in as much as we appreciate people holding certain positions, our ways of interacting and collaborating are not informed by the positions we hold, but the culture that we have in that particular system. So helping senior leaders in organizations and people in organizations to go through a process of reframing their mindset, understanding that people want these leadership positions because they come with power And at times people will not listen to this collaborative and leadership culture because it's a threat to their positions of power. So a leadership culture can help in that respect. With regards to strategy, again, our mindset should not be on the strategy document, but the process through which we take people through when we are developing a strategy document. To what extent is that process embedded in co-creation and co-sensing what is happening around us? If we still have this dominant model of a group of individuals go to a resort place, sit there for 3 days and come up with a nice document, we ain't going anywhere, because the people who are in the system are not involved and they don't know anything about that. And the question that is posed by Madam Hannah in terms of aligning the followers and the leaders, if we still have paradigms that says leaders make decisions and followers get those decisions imposed on them, and we have nice terms like cascading that we use in most of our organizations, where this bunch of folks, they go out, they plan a document, they come and they say we are cascading that document. And all they're doing is having a meeting and communicating to everyone else. Eventually, people will not be aligned because there is no co-sensing, there is no co-creation. And you can read around the Theory U model around that and how it can support collaborative working. And one last thing that I will comment on is opening information systems. In most organizations, there is no alignment between followers and the so-called leaders because information systems are not open. There is certain information that is privy to a group of individuals and is not shared with everyone else. So we need to relook our privacy and confidentiality policies and find ways to open information systems in a way that supports the growth and development of our organizations. With that, anyone else with a comment before we move on with the program? I will ask Dr. Roland and Mr. Patrick to make their comments while they give their remarks. Anyone with a quick comment before we do that?
All right, let me quickly comment. I want to believe that change is a very constant thing in every establishment, in every setting. And the change mindset would actually go a long way in making sure that an organization adapts to every challenge. And be that as it may, even for us as professionals, we need to have that mindset, the change mindset that anything could happen. And how do we adapt whenever there is a change? The fact that you are a member of the board today, it doesn't mean that someone else cannot just come in and then get a higher number of shares in the establishment where you work as a director, and then unseat you in the following financial year. So change is absolutely constant, and then we need to be positive minded while adapting to change, because there is an element of let me call it being slack. Whenever we see an organization dying or not doing well, it's because they fail to adapt to change. For instance, we all understand the story of BlackBerry. BlackBerry was the talk of the town at a moment, at some point, but they lost it because they couldn't adapt. Same thing goes for Nokia. Nokia also was the talk of the town at some point, but because of the lack of being agile, because of the lack of being adaptive to change, definitely they lost out of the mobile phone market. So it's very important that we all understand the part that change or the change mindset plays, because when we don't have that mindset that anything could happen, then definitely there would be a lot of slow progress, and then there won't be much significance in whatever input we even put into the organization or anywhere we find ourselves. So as professionals, I want to encourage us that we embrace change. We look into the future as much as we can, while not neglecting the realities around us, so that we can easily adapt to every form of uncertainty, volatility, the complexity and the ambiguity in which we operate as entities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we go to Mr. Patrick and Dr. Roland, can I ask the closing remarks? Any comment, Mr. Gordon Kadziyanike? And thank you so much for the insights.
Thank you so much, Doc. Maybe on a lighter note, let me just share a story of what happened in some country. A rich man had a daughter who was ready for marriage, and then he invited all the boys in the area who were ready to marry and gathered them around a pool, and he said, whoever wins this competition will take my daughter. And then as the boys were milling around the pool, the helicopter came, dropped some alligators and crocodiles, and then the boys then became frustrated, and some were moving away, and suddenly there was a splash in the water, and within minutes, some boy had crossed the swimming pool. And then the father was very impressed, and then he called the boy and asked him what had happened. And so the boy, after gaining some composure, said, I want to know who pushed me into the pool. So my question is, Doc Justin, why did you push me into the pool? Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think you can see that you opened a very interesting topic here, which we really need to have good conversations. There's a lot of talk around VUCA Prime and all, and we need to really have a good conversation around that with regards to the applied techniques to help organizations maneuver that. And Mr. Martin, I saw you wanted to share something. I will ask you to do that as you do the closing remarks as well. In the interest of time, allow me to ask Dr. Roland from ISO-DC to make a comment on the presentation, and then his remarks regarding the end of year and our relationship. ISO-DC is our mother body. The work that we do, they support us through and through, including the certification, and we appreciate that relationship. Over to you, Dr. Roland.
Thank you so much, Dr. Justin. I must say that I came this morning expecting to simply be celebrating the end of the year for COLD and OLDN, not anticipating such a insightful and wonderful dialogue and sharing of information and ideas as we have just experienced. VUCA and VUCA-DICE are certainly important. The conversation leaves me to sense that many of us here on the call are quite aligned with what we believe needs to happen in order to help organizations become effective in what they do. And I think that the most critical thing for us as OD practitioners is to think about how we use ourselves in helping the clients with whom we engage in organizations understand VUCA and understand the impact of change on their organizations, and help the individuals whom we look to as leaders in those organizations examine the mindset that guides them currently and help them with a shift, if you will, in their mindset to create a culture of leadership so that they aren't carrying the burden alone, recognizing that they have many, many helpers within the organization who can help to create the change. Let me just, so those are my comments with regard to the presentation. And I want to thank Golden, and I cannot pronounce Golden's last name. I want to thank him for that wonderful presentation. I certainly came away with new learning. I was not familiar with the scales concept or the scales framework, I should say, as a way of addressing VUCA. I will look at that much more closely because I do think it offers some wonderful opportunities for recalibrating the way that I have thought about moving from VUCA to VUCA Prime. So thank you very much for that. I want to congratulate COLD and OLDN for the fine work that you have done in 2021. ISODC is pleased to be in affiliation with you as you continue to develop scholar practitioners who can serve not only Africa, but who can serve the world. ISODC itself is in the process of planning its information exchange for 2022. And I invite all of you to attend that gathering and to participate via a presentation or a workshop. Information about participating in the conference is being developed and will be available on our website right after the first of the year. In my role as the affiliation chair for ISODC and as a member of the planning committee for the conference, and on behalf of our president, Dr. Joanne Preston, again, I want to congratulate you on your 2021 achievements, and I look forward to assisting you in a productive 2022. Enjoy the holiday season as it approaches. Be well, and thank you very much for this wonderful conference, year-end generative dialogue, which I greatly appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate the support from ISODC, and we have a role to play in sustaining that relationship. As a community of scholar practitioners, we uphold the values of professionalism and ethical practice in our profession. And we do commit as a community to remain professional and ethical in our practice as we carry the ISODC name in our different engagements. Thank you so much for that support. I will ask Mr. Patrick Trottier to share his comments and remarks, and then we move to the vote of thanks. Mr. Martin and Mr. Walter, I asked you to be ready as well. Mr. Patrick.
Justin, how much time do I have?
You have 3, maximum 5.
Okay, excellent. First, I would like to say that I'm honored, appreciative, and humbled to be part of this great journey of COLD and OLDN. More specifically, I'm honored to know Dr. Justin and Dr. Dutton over this time I've spent with these two. I consider them men of integrity. Last April, May, we began our conversation around developing a collaborative partnership with COLD and OLDN. And we began many conversations to explore what that means. I was interested in bringing my practice of 40 plus years of in the trenches OD or emergent OD practice. I am not an academic, I'm not a writer, I'm not anything except for a practitioner. I focus on emergent OD and emergent change, and that deals with many of the thoughts and issues that were brought up today. The messages I heard about what Dr. Dutton and Dr. Justin want to achieve and create grabbed my both my curiosity and interest. However, I've heard these words many times before, and I was somewhat cautious about this. Today, I can say beyond a doubt, I am enjoying this adventurous journey. They are men of their word. My experience with the people here are both honorable and fascinating. So many thoughts, so much diversity. When I read the invitation for today, one word caught my attention. The word is community. This community is very unique because it both comes together as well as diversifies at the same time. It is continually forming itself. I am happy to be a part of that. Yes, I'm reading this because I wrote down some notes from last night. Last night I reflected what's really being created here. It's a community of love, respect, and appreciation. It's a safe place to be curious, explore, and to consider, and even a safe place to develop new perspectives within oneself. It's a place to ask questions, to begin conversations, a place to reflect on oneself, on one's thoughts, and how one lives one's life. And thank you, Violet, for bringing that point up. A place for gadfly thinking, which is an amazing thing. A place to have a voice for everyone. A place for continuous learning, of sharing knowledge, of exploring new approaches and working with organizations. A place to appreciate each person's journey, no matter who they are, where they come from, or where they are going. The desire to make a real difference. I can truly say that this is my kind of place. These things are what will take all of us, COLD and OLDN, to the next year and beyond, to make a real difference, to create new worlds of work and bring people to new places in themselves and in their lives. So thank you for inviting me to be part of this journey. I hope I am part of it for a long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the support, Patrick. Colleagues here know that I meet Patrick every Wednesday since May last year. I think we have skipped a few Wednesdays, but we religiously meet every Wednesday for good conversations. And those who are available for those good conversations can join and connect with Patrick at any given point in time as well. And we hope such kind of interactions are happening across members. If we are just a community that meet for workshops and webinars, we are not doing anything. We are just as ordinary as other professional communities. We have to do something differently in terms of the true characteristics of a network, and that is building meaningful connections. And as the year ends, I challenge everyone to reflect on the level of connections that you have had on OLDN. Looking at our WhatsApp database, we have almost 200 members. And the question is, how connected are you to the 200 members that are on that platform? And are we really building meaningful relationships and meaningful connections to lead sustainable strategic change? We have a role to play since we advocate for OD values, and that sense of accountability should define who we are in terms of really connecting for transformational impact and transformational influence. I also challenge colleagues here to reflect on the level of impact and influence that we have had during the year. As COLD, we received 2 offers for awards, and I'll mention this. I shared one with Dr. Dotun, and I turned it down. Why? Because we believe in stories of transformation and not awards. As a community of scholars and practitioners, if you want to appreciate COLD and OLDN, please write us a note of the story of impact. That is more valuable to us than nice awards and plaques given in nice hotels and all that. So I request, and I make this public, we are live on Facebook, for those who think of giving COLD and OLDN awards to save their face by just writing a letter of appreciation, documenting word for word the impact and influence that we will have made. That is transformational to us and to the values that we stand for. So I must appreciate everyone for being part of this story. And we really need to push for more transformational impact and influence, meaningful connections, lifelong learning, and interactions that are generative to ourselves as individuals, to our organizations, to our communities, to our countries, and to the entire globe. With that, can I ask Mr. Martin for the vote of thanks, and then Ms. Jane, we did not hear your voice, and Madam Bontle, I'll ask you to have a minute, and then we close today's session. And we will be starting our formal interactions on the 10th of January 2022. So from now until then, we will not have any formal event, any formal interactions until the 10th of January 2022. Mr. Martin, your remarks as we try to land.
Thank you very much, Dr. Justin, and thank you to everyone who is on the session. In 2020, I was busy running my webinars with participants across 11 countries, and I was having fun. And then I received communication that, Martin, we like what you're doing and we'd like you to be part of something. And I think that was the best ever message in 2020 for me. And I joined a group who think about causing change, not by speaking, but by doing and actions, and influencing the thought process of others, changing the status quo. It is not about how many groups you belong to. It is not about how many webinars you attend or host, but the key question is, what impact as an individual are you creating in the continent? And I think that is what the OLDN network is all about. And I think I'd like to thank all the speakers, Dr. Patrick, and everyone else who participated in today's session. And it is always a pleasure to be part of the network where the meaningful conversations that cause change in the way you think, the way you do your thing, because then you leave. And the worst thing that can ever happen to any person is to think that they know it all. And when you're in the presence of others, you realize that what you know is just but a fraction. And here what we have is collective knowledge, collective wisdom from various countries, people who are willingly sharing their knowledge, people who are willingly giving their time. There are many other things we could all be doing, but this evening we thought, let us be part of this conversation to close our year in style, a year of conversations, a year of a conference, a year of learning, and a year of connecting. There is one session we had, and I was looking at how many individuals, HR in this country, can I reach out to just through my small network? And I realized it's over 3,000. But then collectively, and our last check, there are about more than 2-3 million practitioners within HR, within the body of dealing with people development in the African continent. How do we reach out to all of them as individuals, as a group, so that we are able to cause the change that we desire? And I think just to thank everyone who has taken part this year as a speaker, as someone who has added to the body of knowledge of OD, of HR, and of talent development, which are all cousins, is where we all find ourselves. And we find that this body of knowledge is relevant to whatever area we are in, whether you're in HR, mainstream HR, whether you're in talent development, or you're in OD. And again, one question I always ask myself, and one day maybe I'll get the answer, is simple Martin, based in a village in Thika, trying to impact Africa. How did a group of learned practitioners decide Martin fits in this? For me, it is always an honor and a privilege to be part of this group and to contribute in any way I can. And so thank you to everyone who's been a contributor for this year and for this session. So, Dr. Justin, I think it has been a great year, and I'd like to pass it back to you.
Thank you so much for that. In the interest of time, Jane Jerry.
Thank you so much, Doc. I think Martin has taken the words out of me. It has been a great year. I'm personally grateful for being a member of OLDN. I'm grateful for when we met in 2019 when I started my studies. I have to say the person I was in 2019 is a different person, a changed person right now in 2021, and I'm forever grateful for that. I know next year is going to be more transformational. For all those who have joined us today, for all those who have made their comments and their feedback, we are really grateful. Every day is a learning time. I always say learning never stops. So every day we learn, every day we get to contribute to and enrich the lives of each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. I remember the day we first met when you visited our campus and we had a good conversation there. I appreciate the partnership. Bontle, Botswana. Bontle.
Thank you, Doc, and good evening to everyone. It has been a great year of learning, and I'm looking forward to 2022. And I'd like to thank you, Doc, for the influence, for the transformation, for the valuable lessons, and the impact that you're always creating by throwing us into the deepest end of the pool. Thank you. I think Violet represented the cohort 6 very well during her presentation. So really, I don't really have much to say, except to thank everyone who has participated in this session tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Dr. Koba there, and you joined towards the end. Good to have you there, Doc. And thank you so much for joining us. Tsitsi, you are here. We have never done this, and I will ask you to give us a closing prayer, recognizing every member and their families, the organizations that we are working with, and also appreciating the many religions that we represent. We have colleagues from the Muslim community. Last year, we closed our session with a spiritual conversation on Christianity and Islam. So we appreciate the members that we have, others who believe in Buddhism. We have people who are Hinduism and Islam and Christianity. And I'll ask you to give a closing prayer, appreciating the year and committing the families into the hands of the Almighty. And I'll close with a biblical scripture from Philippians 4, verses 8 to 9. And it says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think of such things. Thank you so much for supporting, and let's be on that journey of thinking of what is transformational and what gives life to others and to this community. Thank you so much. Tsitsi, over to you.
Father, in the name of Jesus, we want to thank you this evening. Father, we want to thank you for 2021. Father, we bless your name for us as a community, as OLDN, as COLD. Father, we want to thank you that as the year began, we had plans, we had endeavors, we had activities that we had planned. Despite the VUCA challenges that we might have faced, despite the challenges that we faced globally, we just want to thank you, Father, that at the end of the day, you gave us breakthroughs at a personal level, at family level, at organizational level, even as a network. Father, we want to thank you, and we are grateful for the transformation that have taken place in our lives. Father, we want to thank you. We are grateful for the expansion that has taken place at individual levels. We have seen some of us starting new works, starting new activities, which we have seen expand and grow. It's none but short of your grace and your loving kindness to us. Father, we thank you once again for the year. We want to thank you for each and every member those of us who have attended this meeting and those who were not able. But at the end of the day, we have seen you being with us. We have seen you growing us and prospering us as a community. We want to thank you for 2022. And once again, God, we do not know what is in store, but one thing that we have confidence is that you will take us through. We want to thank you for our families. We want to thank you for everything that even as we close up for the holiday, you are going to be with us, Father, to reignite our minds, to rejuvenate our thinking, that even as we come in 22, our minds are filled up with new ideas, with innovations, with more creativity. At the end of the day, like we have also been saying, we want to pray that we'll be able to make the right impact to the people around us. We want to make the right impact to the lives around us, especially our families, our organizations, and even as a network. And we want to make that global impact even as OLDN. We want to thank you tonight. We pray that you'll be with us from now and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for the year, and let's keep engaging, let's keep connecting, building those meaningful relationships. Thank you so much to all.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you, everyone. Quite an exciting conversation today.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, everyone. Meet you next year.
Thank you, Doc, for the opportunity, and I hope to continue interacting with this great community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.